In the dark emptiness of space, a human scout ship named Wayfarer 9 floated quietly near a dead planet called Shirian 3. The planet was marked as lifeless in every galactic record. No signals, no heat, no motion for over 100 years. But now, something had changed. A soft, broken signal had been detected so weak that most systems would have ignored it. But Commander Raynor, a lone human explorer with a sharp mind and curious heart, decided to check. He leaned closer to the blinking console, the signal repeating in a forgotten alien language. It sounded like a whisper in the dark, almost like a cry. He stared out the front window of his ship. The gray planet below looked cold and dead, but Raynor's gut told him otherwise. He grabbed his gear, loaded his pulse rifle, and lowered his ship into the dusty clouds of Shirian 3. As he landed, dust and ash swirled around, making everything look ghostly and strange. Raynor stepped out of the ship, his boots sinking slightly into the soft ground. Ruins stretched in every direction, broken towers, shattered glass domes, and rusted remains of what was once a great alien city. No sounds, no wind, just silence, too much silence. He moved carefully, scanning the area, then, suddenly his visor lit up. "Life detected," it said. He spun around, aiming his rifle, but there was nothing. Only shadows dancing between the ruins. Then, from behind a broken pillar, a figure slowly stepped out. She was thin, trembling, and barely dressed in scraps of cloth and armor. Her skin was soft gray with faint blue markings glowing weakly on. Her arms, her long white hair was messy, her eyes wide with fear. She raised her hands slowly and whispered something in her own tongue. Raynor kept his rifle up. "Identify yourself," he said calmly. The girl fell to her knees, her voice shaking. "Please, don't hurt me." "I'm the last." Raynor froze. He lowered his rifle slightly, staring at her. "Last of what?" he asked. "My people?" "They're all gone. I sent the signal." "I didn't know if anyone would come," she said softly. Raynor's heart sank. He had read about this Resta Alari, a once beautiful, powerful species with deep knowledge of nature and the stars. But they vanished during the Great Burning War. "You're Alari?" he asked, still not fully trusting. She nodded. "I was just a child when the fire came. My mother hid me underground. I've been alone ever since." Raynor scanned her again. The readings were real. She wasn't lying. Her vitals were weak, and she was malnourished. But alive? "How did you survive this long?" he asked. Walking closer, the girl looked away. Shame in her voice. "I slept for many years in the cryo cave. When it failed, I woke up. Alone, hungry. Waiting." Raynor slowly offered her a thermal blanket and water. She took it with shaking hands, her eyes wide in disbelief. "You're human," she said suddenly, almost surprised. "Yeah, I'm from Earth," he replied. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Niraya." "All right, Niraya," Raynor said. "I'm not here to hurt you, but I need to know why send that signal. What do you want?" Niraya looked down at her hands, then up at him with eyes full of quiet pain. "My species is dying. I am the last female, the last with a functioning womb. I can't let my people vanish forever. I need help. From someone who can carry the spark, and humans might be the only hope." Raynor blinked. He had faced battles, pirates, and cosmic storms, but nothing prepared him for this. "You want me to help you?" "Restart your species?" he asked carefully. She nodded, her voice trembling. "Not because I want it for me, but for them. For the Alari to live again. If I die without trying, my whole race ends. Please." Raynor didn't answer right away. Behind her, the sky of Shirian 3 darkened. Strange lights blinked above, maybe sensors from old satellites. Or maybe someone else had heard the signal too. He looked at her again, this scared, Fragile girl, carrying the weight of a lost civilization. There was something honest in her voice, something real and deep inside him. A voice whispered, "This is bigger than you, Raynor. Much bigger." He helped her up. "Let's get you to the ship," he said. But as they walked back toward the Wayfarer, something in the ruins moved. A pair of glowing red eyes watched them from the shadows. And far above the planet, a ship powered up. A signal had been heard not just by humans. The silence was ending. Inside the Wayfarer 9. The ship's lights hummed softly as Commander Raynor guided the weak alien girl toward the medbay. She moved slowly, her body shaking from cold, hunger, and years of loneliness. Raynor helped her sit down. Scanning her with medical tools, her vitals were low but stable. Neriah looked around the ship like a child, seeing the stars for the first time. "It's warm," she whispered, her voice still unsure. Raynor offered her food paste, and she ate slowly, her eyes locked on his face. She had not spoken much since they left the ruins. Raynor finally broke the silence. "Tell me the rest. What happened to your people? Why were you left behind?" Neriah looked down at her hands, long fingers wrapped in bruises. She took a deep breath when the burning war came. "My people didn't want to fight. We believed in peace, in harmony with the galaxy. But others saw our ways as weakness. They attacked. Our cities burned, our skies fell. I was just a child. My mother carried me to the cryo caves beneath the temple." Her voice cracked, but she continued. "She sealed the doors, put me in a sleep chamber, and activated the distress signal. She promised someone would come. But no one came. The war ended, and no one came. The years passed, and still no one came." Raynor listened carefully, his jaw tight. The galaxy had moved on. The Alari were marked as extinct. But here she was, living proof that one survived. "How did you wake up?" he asked. "Power failure," she replied softly. "Maybe the system broke down. Or maybe fate decided it was time." Raynor looked at the readings on his tablet. Her genetic structure was unique, pure Alari DNA. But something strange showed up in the scan, an unusual compatibility with human biology. He frowned. "Your DNA? It matches some parts of human code. That doesn't make sense." Neriah looked up, her voice soft but certain. "It does. If you know the truth, long ago, before the wars, there were whispers among the elders that the Alari and the early humans shared a common origin. That both races came from the same ancient seed scattered across the stars." Raynor leaned back, trying to absorb that idea. "So, we're cousins," he said, half joking. She gave a faint smile. "Maybe distant ones, but it means you are the only species left who can help me." She stood slowly, walking toward him. "I am not asking for love or comfort," she said firmly. "I am asking you to help me save my kind if I die. My womb dies with me. The legacy of the Alari will vanish. I have no right to force you, but I had to ask, before it's too late." Raynor looked at her, her eyes full of desperation but also courage. She had lived through hell, waited in silence, and still believed someone would come. But before he could speak, the ship's alert system beeped. Proximity alarm. Raynor turned to the screen. An unidentified drone was hovering outside the ruins. Scanning the area, he cursed under his breath. "You were right. The signal didn't just reach me. Others are coming." Neriah looked frightened. "They'll kill me if they find me." Raynor grabbed his rifle and moved to the cockpit. The drone was small but armed. He aimed the ship's pulse cannon and fired. The drone exploded in a bright flash. "We're not safe here," Raynor said. "They'll send more soon." Neriah clutched the blanket tighter. "Then let's go. There's a place. An old outpost my people once used. It may still have power. Medical tech we might be able to preserve." "What's inside me?" Raynor stared at her. You mean? Start the process. She nodded. Yes, I need help, but it must happen soon. Time is short, and the enemy is not far behind. Raynor hesitated only a moment before setting a new course. The Wayfarer 9 lifted off, leaving the dead city behind. But far above them, a black ship drifted through the clouds, its long wings stretched like blades. Inside it, red eyes watched their path. This time, a cold voice whispered, "The last one will not escape." Back inside the Wayfarer, Neriah leaned against the wall, her eyes half closed. Raynor looked at her one more time. Then at the stars ahead. He didn't know what lay at the outpost, or if they were already too late. But one thing was clear, he couldn't turn back now. A girl had asked him to help save a lost species, and part of him had already said yes. The ship flew quietly through the black sky, leaving behind the ruined city and the broken drone inside the Wayfarer 9. Raynor stared at the strange results on his tablet. He had scanned Neriah's blood again and again, each time the same strange match appeared. Her alien DNA was not only close to human, it was almost like an older version of it. It didn't make sense. Alien species were supposed to be completely different. But Neriah's blood reacted to human nanotech. Her cells accepted the medical gel made for humans, and her genes lit up. When they touched human biosignals, Raynor leaned back in his chair, confused and amazed. How is this possible? He whispered to himself. Behind him, Neriah stood silently, watching. She wore a new medical cloak from the ship, her skin no longer shivering from cold. "I told you," she said gently, "long ago. The Alari knew something the rest of the galaxy forgot. We were starborn, like many others. But some say the first starborn were one." Raynor turned to face her. "You mean all sentient life came from the same seed?" "Not all," she replied, "but the Alarian humans. We were once sisters in the stars. Maybe we were even one people, long before the records began." Raynor shook his head. "No one on Earth ever mentioned this." Neriah stepped closer, her voice soft, "Because they forgot, the war erased much history. The ones who attacked us, they feared that truth." Suddenly, a blinking light caught Raynor's eye. The ship's AI had decoded something deeper from the blood sample. Buried inside Neriah's DNA was a dormant coda-genetic lock that only activated in the presence of a compatible species, and that species was human. "What is this?" Raynor asked, his fingers moving over the screen. The AI spoke in a clear voice. "Code match. Alari Prime Class DNA. Activation trigger. Human genome contact. Purpose. Restoration protocol." Raynor stared, frozen. "Restoration protocol," he repeated. Neriah's eyes widened. "It's real then." "The ancient plan." She sat down slowly, her hands shaking. "The elders built this plan long ago. If our people were ever wiped out, and if one of us survived, and the DNA would awaken when a compatible race was near, to begin rebuilding. Even if only one remained." Raynor rubbed his face. "So this was never just about you asking for help. This is something your people built into your blood." She nodded. "Yes, but we never thought we'd need it. And now? I'm the last vessel." Raynor looked again at the screen. The restoration protocol required more than just reproduction. It needed protection. Medical tech and careful guidance, if done right. It could restart a species if done wrong. It could kill her. "We need a safe place," Raynor said. Fastanira closed her eyes, then opened them slowly. "There's a hidden moon not far from here. It was once an Alari sanctuary. If anything is left, it might help." Raynor adjusted the ship's course immediately, but just as he locked in the new path, a warning flashed on the main screen. "Incoming signal, unknown source, encrypted." Raynor tapped the console, trying to trace it. The signal wasn't from Earth or the Council. It was sharp, cold, and aggressive. Then a symbol appeared on the screen, a black triangle with blood-red lines. Naraya gasped, her face pale. That's them. The Scourge clan. The ones who destroyed my people. Raynor's hand tightened on the console. If they're here, they must have followed the signal, Naraya whispered. They cannot find me. They will finish what they started. Raynor powered up the ship's shields and went full speed toward the moon. They had to reach the old Alari site before the Scourge ships arrived. Time was running out. The ship raced across starfields as Naraya sat in the medbay. She placed her hand over her stomach. There was no life inside her yet. But the protocol had begun. Her body was changing, preparing. The code in her blood was awakening something ancient, something forgotten. Raynor returned to her side. I'm not a scientist or a father or a savior, he said quietly. But if this can help save even a piece of your people, I'll do what I can. Naraya looked at him, her eyes full of silent hope. That's more than I ever dreamed. Outside, the stars shifted. The hidden moon came into view, silver world wrapped in blue clouds, and behind them, the Scourge ship appeared from the dark, a predator following a fading spark. The race had begun, not just for one life, but for the return of an entire race. The hidden moon spun slowly in the cold shadows of space. Its surface was quiet, dusty plains and mountains stretched under a pale sky. But buried deep within the hills was something older than any map, a forgotten sanctuary built by the Alari. Long before war had wiped them away, Raynor's ship broke through the clouds, landing near a broken tower made of crystal and stone. The moment the Wayfarer 9 touched the ground, the ship's sensors picked up faint power signatures coming from underground. Naraya stepped out first, her body shaking, not from cold, but from memory. I've been here once, she whispered, before the war. This was sacred ground. Raynor followed her, holding his rifle tight. Every step felt heavier, like the silence of the place was pushing down on them. Do you think the equipment still works? He asked. Naraya nodded slowly. If the core survived, maybe. They walked through the ruins. Crystal walls cracked and overgrown with time. Then, after passing through a fallen arch, they found a 10 ancient door, sealed shut with energy locks. Naraya placed her hand on the panel, and the door lit up blue. It scanned her fingers, then opened with a deep hum. Inside, the air was cold but breathable. Blue lights blinked along the walls. Waking up after centuries, they stepped into what looked like a medical chamber. Beds, monitors, old machines covered in dust, but the power was still flowing. Help me set up the equipment, Naraya said. We must begin before it's too late. Raynor helped her lie down on the medical bed. The system scanned her body again, detecting the restoration protocol active in her cells. A hologram appeared above the message from an Alari elder, her voice soft and calm. If you are seeing this, then the last has survived. Begin the process, protect the vessel, and carry our flame into the stars once more. But just as hope began to rise, the peace was shattered. The Wayfarer 9 blinked, a red warning ship detected. Raynor rushed to the screen. The Scourge vessel had arrived, massive and black, shaped like a claw reaching across the stars. They found us, he muttered. Naraya's eyes filled with fear. They'll destroy everything, even this place. Raynor tapped his comms and activated the outer defenses. Small turrets buried around the sanctuary began to rise. I'll hold them off, he said. You stay here. Don't stop the process. Outside, the Scourge ship dropped dark pods from its belly. They hit the ground and opened like angry flowers. Soldiers in black armor stormed forward, their weapons glowing red. Raynor met them with fire, his pulse rifle blazing, his body moving fast. The sanctuary defenses helped, but they were old. Raynor ducked behind stone walls, returning fire. He was just one man, but he fought like a storm. Every shot he fired bought more time for Niraya. Back inside, Niraya cried out as the machine connected to her body. The protocol had entered its final phase. Her body burned with heat, cells racing to prepare for life. She gritted her teeth and whispered, "Please. Not yet. I must live long enough." Raynor was hit by a blast, thrown back against a wall, his armor cracked, his shoulder bleeding. He saw a Scourge captain walking toward him, massive and cold. "You protect a ghost." The captain said, "Let her die. The Alari are finished." Raynor spat blood and raised his weapon again. "Then why are you so scared of one girl?" He said. He fired, hitting the captain in the chest. The alien screamed and fell. But more kept coming. Inside the chamber, Niraya's body glowed faintly. Her skin shimmered with blue energy. The system spoke. Stage complete. Genetic material stabilized. She smiled through tears. The seed is alive. Raynor stumbled back into the chamber. Bleeding and bruised. "They're falling back," he said. For now, he looked at her, eyes wide with disbelief. "You're glowing, Niraya." Reached out, weak but alive. "It's working, Raynor." The first step. It's done. He sat beside her, breathing heavily. For a moment, they forgot the war outside. They forgot the blood, the ruins, the pain. For that moment, hope lived again. But far above, in the Scourge ship, a general watched the battle. He clenched his fist as the data came in. "The last Alari carries the spark," he said. "Destroy the moon. Leave nothing." Raynor looked up at the sky through the broken ceiling. Something told him the fight wasn't over yet. The underground sanctuary was quiet now. Only the soft hum of ancient machines and the slow, steady breaths of two survivors filled the room. Raynor sat beside Niraya, bandages on his shoulder, blood dried on his armor. She lay on the medical bed, glowing faintly. Her body weak but alive, outside. The moon's surface was scattered with scorch marks and smoking debris. The Scourge troops had pulled back, but not for long. Raynor knew they were preparing for something worse, something final. He looked at Niraya, her chest rising and falling gently. She had risked everything, her body, her life, to carry the last hope of her species. And he had fought harder than ever before. Not for orders, not for medals, but for her. She opened her eyes slowly, and for the first time, she smiled. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice dry but soft. Raynor gave a faint grin. "I'm stubborn like that." She turned her head, staring up at the glowing ceiling. "I felt the protocol finish," she said. "It was like a storm inside me, but now I feel calm, like I'm not alone anymore." Raynor nodded. "You're not." He reached out and gently placed his hand on hers. It was cold at first, but then it warmed in his palm. Niraya looked at their hands. Then at him. "I never thought I'd meet someone like you," she whispered. "A human, willing to fight and bleed for a forgotten girl. You could have left. Why didn't you?" Raynor didn't answer right away. He looked at her face. Pale and tired, but still beautiful in a quiet, broken way. "Because you matter," he said finally. "Not just because you're the last Alari, but because you didn't give up, even when you were alone. Even when no one came, you still believed someone would." Nira's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. "You're kind. Humans. You're strange. You fight so hard, feel so much. But maybe that's what we needed. Maybe that's what I needed." Raynor stood slowly, stretching his arms with a wince. "I'm going to check the outer defenses," he said. "Rest for now." But as he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. "Raynor," she said softly. He turned around. "Will you stay with me a little longer?" He hesitated, then walked back and sat beside her again. Their hands found each other once more. They sat in silence, letting the moments stretch between them. Time passed, but they didn't speak. They didn't need to. Then the sanctuary lights flickered. A low rumble shook the walls. Raynor stood instantly, running to the console. A message flashed across the screen. Enemy capital ship charging planetary weapon. His stomach dropped. "They're going to destroy the whole moon," he whispered. Niraya sat up. Though her body was still weak, they'd wipe out everything, even themselves, just to end me, she said. Raynor paced the room, thinking fast. There has to be a way to stop them. Maybe we can hack the defense satellites, or overload the sanctuary core. She looked at him with tired eyes. There might be one way. She said slowly, "There's a weapon here, deep below the sanctuary. Not a bomb, not a gun. Something else." Raynor raised an eyebrow. "What kind of weapon?" She answered, "A memory." Niraya led him down a spiral path lit by ancient blue lights. They reached a chamber with a glowing orb floating in the center. She touched it, and the walls came alive with images, memories of the Alari. Their birth among the stars, their love of life, their fall in the burning war. Raynor stood in awe. This is history." Niraya turned to him. "It's more than that. This orb can broadcast across the galaxy, send emotion, truth, pain, love directly into the minds of others. It's how we once kept peace, but it was buried when the scourge came." Raynor understood. "If we send this, they'll feel what they've done." She nodded. "Some will still try to kill me, but others, they'll hesitate, and maybe that's all we need." Raynor activated the orb with her guidance. As it pulsed, waves of memories spread into space, showing the Alari not as weapons, not as threats, but as people. Living, loving, dying, hoping, far above, in the Scourge ship, commanders gritted their teeth as emotions they didn't want to feel flooded their minds. Soldiers paused, some even dropped their weapons. Raynor and Niraya returned to the upper chamber. The sanctuary felt different. "Now live again." She leaned on him, her body still fragile. "You did more than help me survive." She whispered, "You gave my people a voice. Even if I am the last, I am no longer forgotten." Raynor placed his hand gently on her cheek. "You're not the last anymore, Niraya," he said. "You're the first of what comes next." And somewhere, in the still silence of the sanctuary, a new heartbeat began to grow. The sanctuary was quiet again, but not calm. Every surface buzzed softly as old Alari systems reawakened. The orb of memory had done its work. Some enemy forces had pulled back, but the threat wasn't gone. Not yet. Raynor stood by the observation screen, looking out at the stars. He watched the Scourge mothership floating just beyond the moon's shadow. It hadn't fired, but it hadn't left either. "They're waiting," he muttered. "For what?" Behind him, Niraya sat on the medical bed, her hand resting lightly on her stomach. A soft pulse of blue light moved beneath her skin, gentle, slow, like the flicker of a new star. She looked tired, paler than before, but her eyes held something. New hope and fear twisted together. "It's begun," she said softly. Raynor turned. "The child?" She nodded. "Yes, the seed is taking root inside me, but my body, it's struggling." Alari females were designed to carry children. Only with constant care and genetic support. Most of that was lost in the war. Raynor's jaw tightened. "So, you mean this could hurt you?" She didn't answer, but her silence was clear enough. Raynor stepped closer, his voice low and steady. "Tell me what you need. I'll find it, steal it, build it, whatever it takes." Niraya looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "There was a chamber deep in the sanctuary, hidden even from many of my people. It held what we call the womb core. It supported fragile pregnancies, healed damage, adjusted DNA in real time. It was our last tool for saving life. but it draws too much power if we activate it. They'll detect the energy spike instantly. Raynor nodded, no hesitation in his voice. Then we prepare for a fight. Together, they went down to the heart of the sanctuary. Thick vines covered old doors that hadn't opened in centuries. Raynor pried them open with a grunt, revealing a glowing room filled with silver pods and crystal lines on the walls. In the center, a single living core blinked softly like a heartbeat. Niraya stepped into the room, the light reacting to her presence. She touched the center panel, and the core came alive. Soft music filled the Arali lullabies from long ago. The system scanned her body, reading her state. Warning: high. Risk pregnancy detected. Activation of womb core required for survival. Raynor watched as the system began its work, wrapping Niraya in a soft blue field of light. He could see her muscles relax, her breathing calm. But then the entire sanctuary rumbled, an alarm flared. And a warning flashed across the screen. Scourge ship detected power spike, approaching rapidly. ETA 11 minutes. Raynor stepped outside. The chamber, activating the outer defense grid, turrets rose, shields pulsed. And the sanctuary braced for impact. But this time, Raynor felt something different. He wasn't just protecting a friend or even an endangered species. He was protecting his child. He moved like a soldier, again fast, focused, deadly. He placed explosives along the outer corridors, sealed weak doors, and hacked ancient systems to create traps. This time, the fight was personal. Back in the chamber, Niraya felt pain roll through her body. Even with the core's help, the ancient tech was struggling to stabilize her. Her DNA was trying to adapt to the human seed. It wasn't rejection, it was transformation. She cried out softly, whispering Raynor's name. But he didn't hear. He was at the surface, waiting for the enemy. The Scourge dropships came fast. Black shadows against the stars. Raynor took the first one down with a rocket launcher stolen from a fallen enemy. The next wave landed, soldiers pouring out with red blades and fire in their eyes. Raynor fought like a beast, silent, brutal, unrelenting. He remembered every scream Niraya had held inside, every lonely year she waited underground, every dream buried with her people. He wouldn't let them bury her again. One by one, he cut them down, bleeding and tired, but not stopping. Then the Scourge general arrived. A towering figure wrapped in armor, with scars glowing like lava. You protect a traitor to the void. He snarled. Raynor didn't reply, he just pulled the trigger. The two clashed among the ruins, fire and steel, strength and rage, and deep below. Niraya's eyes opened wide, glowing brighter than ever. She whispered a name she didn't know she remembered, an Alari word that meant life. The core pulsed, then calmed. A new scan began. Heartbeat detected, stable. Genetic match confirmed. Raynor collapsed to one knee after finally bringing the general down. Blood ran from his shoulder, his side, his leg. But he smiled because he felt it like a thread tying him to something deeper than duty or war. He limped back into the sanctuary. Niraya looked up at him from within the soft glow of the chamber. I heard your heart, she whispered, and now? So does our child. Raynor leaned against the wall, pain in his eyes but peace in his soul. And I heard yours, he replied, both of them. And as the last stars of the night passed over the moon, a new future, fragile but real, was growing in silence, hidden deep within the last womb of a forgotten race, protected by a human who had found something worth dying for. Time passed slowly inside the sanctuary. The wounds on Raynor's body were healing, but the pain remained, not just in his flesh, but in his soul. He sat beside the womb core, watching over Niraya as she rested. The chamber was quiet, lit by soft pulses of blue light. Each pulse matched the heartbeat of the tiny life growing inside her. Raynor could hear it now, steady, strong, alive. A child not fully human. Not fully Alari, but something new. Something the galaxy had never seen. Before Niraya opened her eyes slowly, her voice soft. It's close now. The birth. Raynor nodded. I can feel it too. He stood, moving to check the scanners. The Scourge ship had left orbit 2 days ago after their general fell, and the memory orb broadcasted its full message. Most of the enemy forces had disappeared. Some fled in fear. Others, maybe in shame, but peace in the galaxy was never certain. Raynor knew that. So he spent every day reinforcing the sanctuary, learning Alari tech, and preparing for what might come next. The child's survival meant everything. It wasn't just. A birth it was a symbol, a warning, a promise, back inside the chamber. Niraya was speaking to the machines in her native tongue. The ancient systems responded gently. Wrapping her in warm energy, she winced, gripping the side of the chamber. It's starting, she said, her voice shaking. Raynor ran to her side. Her body trembled, glowing with soft light. He had no training for this, not as a father, not as a healer, but he held her hand tightly. I'm here, he said. I won't leave. The machines pulsed faster. Alari tech guided the process, helping her body through every painful surge. Outside, the moon remained silent, as if holding its breath. Then a sound filled the room. Tiny, soft, new, a cry. Raynor blinked, unsure for a moment if he had imagined it. But then he saw it, floating in the soft cradle of light, was a child, small, delicate, with pale silver skin and faint human features. The child's eyes opened deep violet with flecks of gold. And for a moment, the entire chamber seemed to glow brighter. Niraya wept silently, her hands reaching forward. Raynor lifted the child gently, placing the newborn in her arms. She cradled the child close, her voice shaking as she whispered a lullaby in the Alari language, a song that hadn't been sung in centuries. Raynor sat beside her, watching in silence. The baby reached out a small hand and touched his wrist. A spark passed between them, not pain, not power, but something. Pure connection. He knows you, Niraya said, smiling through her tears. Raynor stared at the child. He's perfect. She nodded. He's both of us. The last of what was, and the first of what can be. They named him Kale, an ancient Alari word that meant light after storm. For a few days, they lived quietly in the sanctuary. Raynor learned how to feed the child, change him, hold him without fear. Niraya taught Raynor old songs, and Raynor taught her how to laugh, but peace never lasts forever. One evening, the long-range scanner beeped softly. A ship was approaching, not Scourge. A council, human markings, high-ranking, armed. Raynor frowned. They're coming for us, he said. Niraya nodded, holding Kale close. They'll want answers. Raynor stood at the top of the sanctuary as the human vessel landed. 3 officers stepped out, armored and cautious. The lead one removed her helmet and spoke. Commander Raynor, you've been off-grid for weeks. We've received reports of an unknown child and a weapon broadcast that caused unrest across 6 sectors. Raynor didn't flinch. She's not a weapon, he said. She's a mother. The officers entered the sanctuary and saw Niraya. Their expressions shifted. From suspicion to awe, they saw the child Kale glowing softly in his mother's arms. And they said nothing. Later, the council sent a message. Earth would offer protection. The Alari were no longer forgotten, they were remembered. Because of 2 lives that refused to fade, years passed. Raynor built a home near the sanctuary. Niraya planted Alari flowers that glowed under moonlight. And Kale grew curious, bright, strong. His laughter echoed through the valley. A new sound on a once dead moon. Visitors came from distant systems not to fight, but to learn. to understand how a soldier and a forgotten girl brought light back into the galaxy. And one day, when Kale asked who he was, Raynor placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You are the child of two worlds, born from war, raised in peace. You are the future we fought for." And Kale smiled, because he already knew.